Wow, we've got new music actually going on for this week, and welcome to the Talent Way Show. We are live on LinkedIn. We're also live on YouTube. We're streaming as well live on Twitter. We've definitely gone up in the world over the last few weeks. Megan's been doing a fantastic job. So I'm Lee McQueen, host of the Talent Way Show, and as most of you know by now, we are on a mission to find out whether or not talent waste exists through research, through stats, through outstanding guests every single week on the show. We believe that talent waste affects organizations across multiple industries, and that's between 30 and 45% of employees that leave organizations within the first year is a problem. 80% of employee turnover due to bad hiring decisions, again, reported by the Harvard Business Review. So we're actually on that mission. And today I am still on the mission. I've got a wonderful guest with me. Last time out, we had the amazing Gemma Beeson. Gemma is the Group HR Director for the leading provider of care homes in the UK, Prime Life. It was an absolutely outstanding episode. You can follow Gemma on everything Prime Life are doing via LinkedIn. Some outstanding insights into the actual challenges facing the health and social care industry, which has gone through, like everybody, but has gone through certainly over the last 18 months with the global pandemic, some real change. So some fascinating insights. Thanks once again, Gemma. You can catch up on all the previous shows via Crowdcast, Spotify, and of course YouTube, which we're now streaming to. You can connect with us at Phoenix51. Follow my LinkedIn page as well. And all that self-promotion stuff is now gone because we're getting to the crux today, which is delighted to have a guest who has an undeniable passion for recruitment. Dawn has worked in recruitment for 20 years. She now runs her own successful consulting business, providing key services in recruitment training, in leadership development training, coaching at manager and leadership level as well, mentoring and contingent recruitment consultancy. Buzzing to have with us today, Dawn Hampton. Dawn, welcome to the Talent Way Show. How are you getting on?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I'm going to apologise in advance if I have any minute coughing fits. But other than that, I'm really good, thanks. It's really great to be here. So thanks so much for the invite.
No worries at all. Absolutely pleasure to have you on. Look, for those of you who watch, for our viewers and our listeners as well, when we turn this into a podcast, for those who don't know who you are at the moment, just tell us a little bit, Dawn, about yourself and what you're doing. You know, I gave you an intro around your career. It's been a fascinating career so far, and that's how our paths have obviously crossed. But what is it you're actually doing at the moment, Dawn?
Yeah, so having been in, I guess, frontline recruitment for 20 years, I guess I decided to make a bit of a change. And I really just wanted to I guess, have a bit of a different way of supporting the industry. So I absolutely adore recruitment. I've been in it, living the life for 20 odd years, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And there's so many parts of it that are incredible. There's so many parts of it that we still really need to work on. And the whole industry has completely dramatically changed over the time that I've been in it, from when I started to what it looks like now. But we've still got lots of things to do, I think, to improve. And some of those things I really care about quite passionately. So I wanted my business I wanted to be able to focus on some of those things and go and support some of these amazing recruitment businesses out there that just maybe need a bit of support, a bit of guidance, a bit of help. And my business just gives me the vehicle to be able to do that, and really just enjoy it and love it, and that's what I've started doing. So yeah, so it's very different from being on the front line when I'm dealing with candidates and clients and making placements and building businesses from scratch, which is what I've done, multiple times. Worked in countries all over the world, recruiting in different markets and all sorts. So it's very different. But it's nice because now my peers, my competitors really, are now my clients, and that's really cool.
Yeah. It is amazing transition, and I remember when we started talking again after a few months ago, I said it'd be the best thing you ever do. I mean, it's one of them key things. I mean, it's interesting. I've got also 20 years recruitment experience, and I posted yesterday that in 20 years, it's the highest level of vacancies that the UK have ever seen in 20 years. 1.1 million vacancies, I think, they're actually posted out in the UK, which actually that spans both of our recruitment lifespan. Essentially, it is a crazy time, Dawn, at the moment, isn't it? In recruitment in general, businesses are kind of bouncing back, if you like, from the global pandemic.
It is a crazy time, and I've been through all, some real waves, in over the last 20 years, and peaks of troughs in recruitment time. But there's so many things. There's a massive war for talent, and that's inside recruitment, because we're so busy and we're all trying to grow, and we all need to grow to be able to service all the clients that we're working with, and our clients have got a war for talent too. So it's absolutely vital that we retain as much talent as we can, and it doesn't go wasted. And that's really important. And there are so many ways, I think, that we are losing good talent unnecessarily still. And a lot of the things that I'm passionate about, that I mentioned, that I'm focusing on in my business, are really there to help prevent that loss of talent unnecessarily. So it is a crazy time, but it's so exciting, and it's just brilliant to be involved in it in a different capacity.
You mentioned there actually, kind of a wave, and one of my mentors actually mentioned to me before that recruitment is always at the crest of that wave. When the wave comes back, you're at the top, and actually when it's the first industry to get hit when things are going bad, but when things are going well, it's also the first industry to kind of reap them rewards, essentially. And I just wondered, actually, just probing, within your experience at all, when there is a kind of a candidate shortage, for want of a better expression, or it's a candidate-driven market, what should employers be doing differently to what they would have been doing maybe a year ago or 18 months ago? Is there any kind of advice or guidance that you would give to for employers, or for other recruitment agencies or recruitment businesses, to say, actually, we need to be doing something different now, rather than doing the same old thing, kind of rinse and repeat?
Yeah. In terms of retaining talent, or
retaining talent, or bringing talent into the business in the first place as well.
Yeah, but both, I think. So I think in terms of bringing talent into the business, I think we've all still got so much work to do in terms of how we improve the candidate experience. I think sometimes we all feel like if you're the one with a vacancy, you've got the power. And I think sometimes we forget actually that the candidate experience is absolutely crucial. And if there is a war for talent, you need to treat the candidates during the process, really, really well. And I think sometimes, recruiters get a bad name for not giving good feedback or any feedback, but a lot of the time that comes from the clients, actually, that aren't communicating with us or allowing us to do that. So I think for me, in terms of that, I think that's really, really important. I think also, obviously, our hiring techniques. I think we are, people, need confidence in the terms of the people that they're going to be managing. So when they hire, they really sometimes we try to hire in our own image, because we're comfortable with that, and we feel confident that we can manage somebody that we like or have rapport or commonality with. So naturally we without even doing it on purpose, subconsciously, we try to hire in our own mirror, which isn't great, I think, in terms of diversity and, in terms of actually long-term growth, because you're going to run out of people that are exactly like you, because we are a race of crazily different people, right? So, so that, I think, not trying not to hire like that, and trying to make sure that the people who are hiring and growing their teams, etc., have the confidence and have the ability and the skills to be able to lead people in a really, really positive way. And that starts at the hiring process, as well as obviously once they're embedded into the business as well.
I agree. It's a really good point. When you talk about kind of just moving into that leadership side of things, do you think there is a way to continue to coach, to continue to develop leaders? I mean, there is certainly, I wouldn't say it's a pandemic, but there's certainly been some issues in our own industry, recruitment industry itself, whereby we promote people because they're good at one thing, but they're not necessarily good at management role or a leadership role and that sort of stuff. Do you got any experiences around that and what your views are on kind of getting real strong leaders into the business?
Yeah, for sure. I have really strong opinions on that because I've seen it, I've experienced.
Share them.
I worked in recruitment in the old days, I suppose, and it was very different to now. And the management, everybody who was a top biller or very good at doing the job of recruitment was suddenly, the company wanted to grow, become more profitable. So they were suddenly, these people who are really good at recruiting were suddenly given, here's 5 people, go and train them and teach them and you manage them now. And they didn't have, they just don't. And it's still happening now all the time. We're promoting people not based on what their skills are that they're really good at. We're promoting them into a job with a completely different skill set.
Totally
being an individual recruiter is a very different job to managing 5 other people and being expected to still do the job yourself as well. So I think that's still, that is a really big issue. It's an age-old issue. We are trying to improve it. And I think lots of businesses now are looking at, their leadership skills within their business and trying to coach and train. But there's still a long way to go because those people are still being promoted with little or no skills or knowledge or training as to how to manage. So that is a big focus for me in terms of the leadership stuff. So I have put my leaders when I was a recruitment director and put them through an amazing program with a company called Seventh Wave. And I just thought it was so incredible that I became an accredited trainer of them so that I could give my clients access to that, because I think the program is so incredible and it makes such a massive difference in terms of being able to create engagement, confidence, to educate these people, and be able to teach them, and give them a toolbox and be able for them to be able to go and be really good leaders, which means nobody's going to end up leaving, which is what has happened. I've left jobs because of managers. I have left jobs because of managers.
I would say that a lot of people have.
Most people have.
I would say a lot of people have. There is a, I don't know if it's an age-old saying, but there's definitely a saying that is that you don't leave the company, you leave the person that you're working for. If you've got a kind of relatively flat structure, that might be debated, but actually if you've got a structure in your business that is kind of stepping up the ladder, so to speak, you're only as good as the person in front of you, essentially. And actually if you don't get on with them, or you don't like their techniques or their leadership style, their management style, typically it's going to have a knock-on effect on your career, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And it's not even, sometimes it's not even that you dislike them or they're, really mean or horrible to you or anything like that. But actually, it might just be that they're not really teaching you. They're not supporting you. They're not, helping you achieve your goals, helping you achieve your potential. So you might really like them. You might be best friends with them. Your manager might be your friend trying to manage you, which does happen often. And that can be really tricky, can't it? So it might not even be that, but it will be, because you don't feel that you're getting the right, the right sort of attention, to be able to help you move on in your job and your career.
And I think that is indicative in what you're saying, really, about kind of promoting people that maybe certainly in kind of, let's be honest, in our industry, I ran a transactional recruitment business for the best part of 8-9 years before I went off and did the Apprentice and then set my own companies up. And actually, you are governed by revenue, and you are governed by the amount of numbers of revenue that's flowing through the doors. And therefore, just because somebody's brilliant at recruitment, like you said, doesn't necessarily mean they're an excellent manager. And what ends up
sometimes it's the reverse.
What ends up happening is the business loses out, because what happens is the company says, "Oh, let's promote you, Lee, to a manager." I change my earning potential, or what I'm really good at now becomes different. I've now got the business has now got a manager that's not actually good enough to be a manager, and then I end up struggling, end up leaving, and then I've also vacated something that I was really good at. So it's actually a 3-way major issue rather than it being a real positive one. And actually what we're doing is we're just saying, do you know what? We need to keep Lee in the business, so we need to promote him. But maybe instead of promoting him into that side, you need to actually find something that I want to be able to do and continue my career. I mean, you spent the best part of nearly 10 years with Faden International, they must have been having that for your journey, that development and leadership journey that you've been on yourself is priceless to be able to give back to other businesses through your consulting business now, isn't it, Dawn?
Yeah, definitely, because I've seen so many good examples and bad examples, and I see what a huge impact it has, and creating, when you're trying to build a business from scratch, which I did at Faden, the contracts business. I started there, was the only person with experience. Everyone I hired into the business started as a grad. So these people I took all the way through from having no recruitment experience whatsoever, and now, that lots of them are directors of their own businesses, directors of the whole West Coast of America, executive directors. And that's been an amazing journey to take them from there all the way through and see that development, and it's amazing. And obviously, I'm not saying every single person I've come in contact with I've been able to do that with, but those who wanted it and those who had the capacity and were driven and wanted support, I could see that and I could get it out of them. And I feel like, that was just brilliant, and I loved every bit of it. And so for me, that was definitely one of the parts of the jobs that I love so much, which is partly why I'm now doing that more full time.
Leadership, for sure.
More time doing that, the coaching and the mentoring and the leadership development, because I did love it so much, and I feel really passionate about it. And I just feel like it's so easy for people to get left alone. And even if they've got a pretty good leader, right? So even if you are quite well looked after and things are going great and the team's going great and everyone's having record quarters and months and things like that. But actually, when do we stop sort of forgetting to check in with our employees? When we sort of stop coaching them, we stop looking at what are your goals, what are your, especially after the pandemic, lots of people's lives have changed. Their individual motivations might have changed. Have we checked in with them recently? Do we understand what their personal, ethos is now compared to what it was when I started at Faden? I was a single girl. Then I got engaged, married. I had 2 children. So by the time I left, I was fundamentally quite a different person. When I started, I was out every night, having fun with the team after work. And suddenly it was like, oh God, Dawn's actually coming out. Wow. Your life can fundamentally change, and we were still being successful and still doing great, but eventually people evolve, don't they? So I think like the coaching and the mentoring and just keep checking in with your team is really, really vital, because what you think you understood about them or what you think you know about them may well have changed.
It's really interesting, actually, because I'm very guilty of this. Running 2 companies myself. I know that I should probably, just chatting to you now, I should be checking in more on my people. I know I should, and I don't do it enough. So I think everybody is probably guilty of that. I think what's really interesting about what you just said there as well is that fundamentally people's lives change. You probably don't get a bigger life change than having children, for example. I've got 3. So I've got 3 young girls. I've got identical twins, and Millie's my eldest, who's 10, and I've got Lottie and Elsa, twins, right? And that fundamentally changes not only the way you can operate, like kind of physically and mentally, but also your key drivers and things like that do change. Having children and being a mum and being very successful, is that had an impact? Have you found, Dawn, kind of in the going back into work, that you've had to change or adapt or be different from that perspective at all?
Yeah, it was massive going back. I didn't even take off that long. So when I had Scarlett, my first, I only had 4 months off work, I think, which was very short. But I felt I had to go back like soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you feel kind of almost pressured to go back? Not directly, but you felt like you needed to.
Yeah, and there were people talking, oh, she's not gonna come back, and I was like, I'm coming back, guys.
Yeah.
Don't panic, I'm coming back. And then even 4 months felt like a really long time, and it was quite daunting going back. I was a senior director in a business. I was going back in, and businesses change really quickly. So you can imagine if you were off for 12 months, with myself, I had 7 months, and that felt like a lifetime. You had 12 months off, for example, which a lot of people do, which is amazing. it's really hard to go back. It's really hard to sort of reconnect with the person that you were before. Do you go and try and be that person again? Or are you going to be someone new? And what does everybody think of you? And how's everyone going to react to you? And, businesses change so quickly, especially recruitment. We grow really quickly. Lots of things change. We have to be quite agile. We have to adapt. We have to change the market landscapes. We have to do all sorts of things to survive, right? So you could go back into a business which looks so different, and that can be really daunting. So that's definitely one of the things that I'm really passionate about, I think there's very little support for anybody returning from paternity leave, whether it's a man or a woman. There isn't much support. And I think, I was very fortunate to have had a coach, and I just don't think I would have been able to survive that if I didn't have that person and that support there for me. And I just, one of the things that I really want to do is be able to support people, that are transitioning back into the workplace, because it's really, really tough thing to do. So definitely something I'm really passionate about. And I want clients to know, companies to know to think about that. So it's great. You can keep in touch days. They were impossible keep in touch days because I was breastfeeding the whole time. So I did keep in touch day by coming in, and I was sitting in a meeting room with my boss, feeding my child while we were having a catch up. And that was kind of crazy. But I was really lucky, when I came back, I carried on breastfeeding because she was only 7 months. So they, gave me a room to go and, do my milking and stuff like that. But so I was fortunate. But it was really tough. It was really tough. And, I think there needs to be a lot more support, because, I've obviously done a lot of research on this recently. 60% of women will change jobs after they come back from mat leave. That's massive. And that is a massive waste of talent. These incredible women who are amazing at their jobs, and they come back after mat leave, and then 60% of them end up changing their job. Well, that's just such a shame, isn't it? I remember coming back, and some people thought, oh, she's not going to work as hard now, or she's not going to be around as much now. And then other people were like, who maybe their wives had children, are like, do you know what? You basically do twice as much work in less time now, don't you, Dawn? I was like, yeah. And they really got it. They understood. So that was quite eye-opening.
Just on that, it fascinates me, because obviously I just mentioned that I've had 3 children, but clearly I didn't have them. My wife did. So I've been the kind of the partner on the other side of the coin that you're talking about, and seeing it from a different perspective. Do you think that being a working mum, a successful career mum, gives you an edge in a sense? Because I find it absolutely mind-blowing how much, and I don't mean to be man and woman on this, right? It's not about that, but I just find it mind-blowing how much more women have to not go through, but cope with or deal with, because of that, of having children. I could be a stay-at-home dad. My wife could go to work and so on and so forth, but I physically can't have a baby. It doesn't matter what you say, I can't have one. So that whilst you're pregnant and whilst you're having, our children and so on and so forth, it has to be the female that goes through that part. But you learn so much as well, like that multitasking and all of the kind of, basic things. But as a parent sometimes I feel like that people that don't have children look away and think, oh, that's a downside that you're a parent. But I actually look at it and think, oh, absolutely, it is another string to our bow that we now know what we can do in business. Does that make, I'm probably not articulating myself.
No, I totally understand what you mean, because I think it definitely develops you as a person in lots of ways. I think I definitely became more empathetic as a person. Yeah. I think a bit more understanding and a bit more patient, I think. For sure, I've got quite a lot of red energy, and I think I sort of dialed up some of my other colours, after having kids. I think, and definitely, I think the mummin, as we call it, is actually incredibly huge, and it does sometimes feel like a big weight on your shoulders, but you have to deal with it. So your organizational skills and your ability to multitask is just it's incredible. So I think women have got skill set, mothers have a skill set, that a lot of other people maybe haven't been able to tap into quite as much, or haven't had to tap into it quite as much. So it definitely gave me accessibility to more skills within and abilities within myself that I didn't necessarily know that I had before.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned earlier, I just put up on the screen as well, you mentioned earlier about coaching and supporting people that are transitioning back into the workplace. So say, it's not just about mothers transitioning back in, it's anyone, as you say, maternity leave, but transitioning back into the workplace. Do you think that, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but do you think that actually there's a huge amount of talented individuals that don't come back into the workplace because maybe that we're not set up? We talked in the green room, didn't we, before coming on air about the huge amount of vacancies that are out there at the moment, and everyone's going crazy, trying to hire brilliant people. Yet there seems to be a talent pool of people that aren't considered, and that might be because of they've got other things on, or a father, they're a mother, or so on and so forth. Do you think that businesses are missing out on a talent pool that actually potentially could be superb for their company?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think there is, a huge number of people out there that really do need a different type of working, whether it be their ability to get to the office, or their ability to whatever type of, if they have an illness or they have a disability, or if they are a parent and they need to be close to home and they can't travel long distances, or they've got a working period in the school day that they could be so productive and probably get done more between 9 and 3 than I think a lot of people could get done between 8 and 6. Because you've got to get it done, you get it done, and there's no faffing around doing other stuff and wasting time. So I think there's definitely loads of opportunities for companies to find staff and employees and talent that actually doesn't fit the conformed model of coming into the office and being there, working at certain times of day as well. That you think about having a resourcer, for example, in a recruitment business, why couldn't they work between 9 and 3 and then send a load of messages out in the evening when the kids have gone to bed? They can work around that, and actually they could be so successful because I know from the school that my children go to, my network of parents, there's some incredibly talented people who aren't really working or aren't working in a job, I think, that is actually at the level of their ability, because they're taking that job because it has more flexibility.
Because it has flexibility.
Yeah,
but actually, I see it as well. I completely agree. I completely agree. I see that as well, and I do think to myself, is there employers out there, like you say, that are talent wasting in a slightly different way, but actually wasting talent because there is a huge there's a huge talent pool out there that we're not tapping into. I mean, there's a question on the screen now about do you think we can be more productive working from home? And I think, that's probably a very subjective to answer that question. But do you think since the pandemic's come in, a lot of businesses have realized, well, hang on a minute, like I didn't maybe trust people working from home before, but actually now I'm still getting a level of productivity that maybe I didn't see before.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we historically, I think recruitment's been a very sort of whip mentality. You've got to have everyone in the office, you've got to stand up and you've got to get on the phone, and everybody has to be in from when I started in recruitment, I was doing ridiculous hours there from 7 a.m. until 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes it was ridiculous until I probably did that for about I don't know, a couple of years. And then I figured out how to be good at the job and how to do it in a short period of time. But and I think that a lot of recruitment businesses have, progressed, and lots of them were already starting to do more flexible working and have different ways of working. But there are a lot of companies that definitely would not have changed had it not been for the pandemic. And I think a lot of them realized, we found, when I was at Faden through that pandemic period, that actually we had people that were literally coming out of their shells and being so successful, because they were just,
where's that come from?
They didn't have all these distractions and this, the culture and the environment and the banter, and it's all fun, but it is very distracting and it does take up a lot of time of the day. So we found, that there were so many people being super productive. And I do feel like for some of the bigger businesses, maybe not some of the smaller agile ones that are being more flexible and offering a different type of working environment, and that's their niche and that's how they're being able to attract talent. Some of the bigger ones that were riding on their reputation and their growth and their incredible success were going for the more old type of we've got to have everybody in the office. And I think now those businesses are now going to be offering more flexible opportunities, and that's just amazing. And that just wouldn't have happened if they hadn't been forced to, and then had to acknowledge that actually they were being super productive.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting as well. I mean, I know that obviously talking about your previous organisation, obviously the business that you set up as well. That most organisations now in recruitment, certainly for the last kind of 6, probably 9 months, have just had record months and record quarters because it's been so mad. And we touched upon at the beginning of the show around the kind of the war on talent. What can we do, Dawn, as businesses to fundamentally ensure that we have a conveyor belt, if you like? I like to call it conveyor belt of talent coming through, but like a talent pool where we can tap into and continue to grow our businesses. I know it's a tough question, but and I think sometimes clients seem to think from a recruitment perspective you're going to wave your magic wand and something happens, but the network has been built over months and months and years of tapping into top quality candidates, and that's where I think a lot of people that aren't doing that are falling down. But I'd be interested to get your view on that. What can we do as employers? You're scaling your business, start to hire 2, 3, 4, 5 people, whatever, scale your business out. How are you going to attract the talent in, and how can bigger corporate organizations attract the talent directly as well?
I think for me, I think across the board, whether it be recruitment or not recruitment, I think, you need to have succession planning. You need to have good leaders. You need to have good people coming through, and you can't have succession. You can't have good leaders. You can't have that without spending time, supporting your staff and making sure that they do have leadership skills, because if they don't, everything just falls apart. And yet we're so focused on what they do as their day job, whether they're a recruiter or a software developer, or I don't know, whatever their job is, could be anything, a scientist or whatever. If they're managing anybody, they have to be able to do that with confidence and engaging, and feel that they have the ability and the knowledge to do that. So for me, I just think that it is probably the biggest thing that companies need to make sure that they're addressing, in order, and most other things will fall into place. People will be happier, more confident, they'll be more productive, they'll be more engaged, they're not going to leave, you're going to be able to grow, you're going to be able to be successful, because everyone's going to be happier, and they're going to be better at their job, and they're going to be better at helping other people be good at their jobs. And whether that is, people who are brand new leaders, so people who are just stepping into that role, but also leaders that have been leading for a long time, but maybe have just had to kind of figure it out for themselves, even up to practiced and very, very experienced CEOs can still benefit from, having the opportunity to improve their leadership skills. So I would say from the top to the bottom, really, I think it's the one thing that I think could make such a big difference to every company in any industry, anywhere. For me, I just, I'm really passionate about it, because I just think it makes such a big difference. If you think every single person, like you mentioned, is affected by the person that manages them, right? Because everyone's managed by someone, aren't they? Even if it's, whether they're at board level, or it's their investors, or it's just their manager or their director or the regional, whatever, they're all being touched by somebody who has got leadership responsibilities.
No, I completely agree. And what's really interesting about that as well is that something you said earlier in the show when you talked about, you wasn't sure if you would get back through that transition without having a coach, and I think there's a lot of people, even now, there's a lot of individuals that don't have coaches or don't have, if you think about any elite sports person, they always have a coach. It doesn't matter how good they are. Cristiano Ronaldo, from a football perspective, Lewis Hamilton, for example, from an F1 point of view, you look at, Nicola Adams from a boxing perspective, they all get coached. Even though they're winning medals, Olympic titles, or, whatever it is, they have a coach. So in business, surely we should be having the same thing, and especially at a leadership level, because sometimes it's just about having a conversation and chatting things through and working through different ideas. And again, I'm just quite interested to hear your view on that, and the passion that you have for that, because for me, if you don't have a coach, you're hamstringing yourself.
No, I totally agree, and you're right. And they all have coaches, and they have different types of coaches, don't they? A coach teaches them to improve their technique and get around the track faster, or improve their whatever the terminology is in boxing. But they also have a coach for their mental ability, and how to manage situations and how to be able to, deal with situations. And that's exactly what the sort of coaching and mentoring that I do. It's really about supporting people. Sometimes it's about helping them reach their individual potential. Sometimes it's just having someone to talk stuff through, having a sounding board, having someone to be able to go and run stuff through with, because and help them understand their own abilities, because I think there's a little bit of imposter syndrome in us all. I think I think we all need a bit of a confidence boost, don't we?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm still wondering when I'm going to get found out, to be fair. I mean, I've run a tech business now that we started, Phoenix51, back in September 2020, in global pandemic. We're on our second raise at the moment, and we're growing the business, scaling the business trying to scale the business fast. And I'm thinking, somebody's going to find me out. I've run my recruitment business for 10 years, and I'm thinking, someone's still going to find me out. I won the Apprentice 13 years ago, and I'm still thinking, how the hell I did that? Do you know what I mean? It's quite crazy to be honest.
It is, and I think we all feel
I think it's got us all, isn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, I think it does. It is huge. And I think if we could I think because there's so much stuff out there, so much content, everybody's promoting what they're doing, everybody's talking about, so there's so much content out there that actually we can just end up looking at all this stuff that everyone else is doing and thinking, oh gosh, they're doing it better, bigger, and we compare, and that's so dangerous, because it is the thief of joy, and it is absolutely crucial that you don't let that overtake. And so for me, that's a great thing about coaching is just trying to block all that noise out and just having time to focus on you and what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve and how, what you're good at and how you could work on stuff, and, giving yourself a safe environment to fail, giving yourself a safe environment to examine yourself, giving yourself a safe environment to talk about, things that you find difficult and how to overcome them, and, and having time to reflect, I think, as well, is really, really important. And if we don't do that, we need to download. You need someone to do that with. And that is part of my job that I absolutely love, and I've always loved doing that. And having had a coach myself, I've just found it so, just so useful, incredibly useful. So I think you're right. It is absolutely crucial.
I do as well, and I think in order for us to, depends what type of individual you are as well. Most people that are have got to a leadership position will always want to step outside their comfort zone. They always want to try and better themselves. They always want to try and learn and develop. So that's an ongoing journey. I remember even to myself, people will ask me questions like, "Oh, how have you done this?" or "How have you been successful at that?" And I always say it's a work in progress, right? It's like I'm not, I actually don't look back. I don't think I don't think I look back and say, yeah, I'm successful. I look at myself and go, yeah, okay, I've got here. This is the point of my journey that I'm at because of the work that I've done so far, but I've still got to go and do X, Y, and Z. And I think that's, you won't look back until maybe I'm retired on a boat somewhere in the Caribbean, when you look back and go, oh yeah, actually, I've done all right. I think that's the way that looks. I just want to actually quickly ask you, because I know I'm conscious of time and you and I could probably talk for the whole afternoon, but talent waste itself, and when we've talked about the leadership side, we've talked about kind of how we can attract talent and coaching and supporting people coming back in, and that is a massive part of that. But have you been directly, seen in different businesses or in your network that you've seen, have you seen that kind of rinse and repeat action where people are hiring, like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, in their own image, and actually, it doesn't work, and then they leave, and then they go again, and then they leave, and then they go again? Because our statistics, and since we started the show, we've had some, like yourself, some real high profile guests on, and everybody I've asked that question to simply says, yes, it does happen. And, we get hiring. Sometimes hiring can be a 50-50, a flip of the coin. Sometimes it might work, and sometimes it doesn't. Board meetings around the globe are saying, oh yeah, actually, if we hire 3, 1 will stick. And you think, is that acceptable? So I'm just trying to get in your insight. Does talent waste exist, Dawn?
100%. I've seen it so much, so often. And I think we do just keep making the same mistakes all the time. And we try and put in these rules. Oh, we must have this type of person. They must have this sort of background. They must have that. But then actually, when you meet them, it's all down to their personality and the attitude and whether you think you're getting on with them. And actually, I think we're just not very good at creating a more consistent structure, in terms of how we're generating candidates, the type of candidates that we're open to seeing, and I think that if we don't change that, then it's not going to change, is it? The same thing's going to keep happening, and it is really, unfortunate. But if people were just a bit more confident, that they could manage anybody, then hopefully they would be a bit more open to, looking at different types of people and finding the right sort of staff and finding the right sort of people to fit in our business. Because I think a lot of us, you see polls and things all the time. Should we hire grads? Should we not? Should people have a degree? All of these different things. And we all know, we've all seen incredible people that come from completely different backgrounds.
For sure.
And, there are so many examples of that. So why aren't we paying more attention to that? Why are we not seeing that and using different ways to find different people?
Yeah, different people. And again, if you find different people, the diversity in your business changes. The diversity of mind changes as well, because ultimately you're not having the same people with the same elements or the same ideas. So your diversity of mind, not necessarily diversity of male or female or ethnic minority and that sort of stuff, diversity, although that does have a huge effect, but also just diversity of mind. So somebody coming in with a different idea, you might think, oh, actually, that's fantastic. Now, again, coming back to the war on talent. Now, if we all keep doing the same things, we're always going to get the same results. But actually, if we have different people, maybe from outside of recruitment, coming into the industry, that's the bit that fascinates me when we're talking about recruitment industry or just industry in general, but the recruitment industry, getting people to come into it and be as passionate as yourself and I am, for example, and all the great people that work in our industry. How do we get people in that are then going to bring different ideas and have a different approach of mind? And that for me is a core point. 30 to 45% of people, and this is from the Office of National Statistics, leave within their first year of their employment. That is crazy. Like if you put some sort of value on that, it's a little bit like carbon neutral and the climate change. We're starting to realize now as a world that if we don't do something, there is a point to this, by the way, I'm not going off on a soapbox, but if we don't do something, we're going to die. Like that is how serious climate change is. And actually, from a talent waste perspective, if we don't put a number on it, it doesn't seem real. So let's put a number on it, okay? If you hire 100 people in a 12-month period and 45% of them leave, you are basic, and CIPD states it's between £12,000 and £30,000 per employee that leaves that cost you that business. You're talking £500,000, nearly £500,000 of just wasted money. So whether or not it's talent that you've wasted or wasted revenue, or we have to improve that retention, don't we? We have to improve bringing people into our organisation and getting them to stay. And actually, if you hire 4 and 1 sticks, that's not good enough. Like, we should be hiring 4.
Not. We try to work to these ratios, don't we? Sorry, I think it stopped for a second there. I mean, we do. We keep working. We know the ratio, so we know we've got to overhire to keep some people, and that is it is really wasteful. And I think, as a business, that we all have a trusted recruitment model, but we still have to evolve. We still have to be agile and adapt, and we can't do that without new ideas. Think of all the the amazing new businesses out there with new concepts and new ways of working, and that's so cool. But that's because they've got people in those businesses, or people who started those businesses, with new ideas. Now they have to go and start their own business in order to get that idea out there, because nobody else was willing to do it, or did they just not ask, or they didn't feel they had an opportunity to go and put it to them. But if people have sort of, they've committed for a year, so they've tried to give it a go, right? But at some point they're like, well, I've either got to commit now, or I've got to accept that it's not right and try and find something else before I waste any more time. Because, I guess we're all in a rush now, aren't we? We're always in a rush. So it's if I've put a year in, I need to now, it's crunch time, right? So we do have to catch it quick, because it will be gone before you even realise.
And actually, that's interesting about that. Coming back to just a more kind of lighter point on children, they grow up so fast. How many times have we heard that? We've got children. Lots of our viewers and listeners have children. You almost run your kind of children part of your life based on term time, don't you, from school? So it's term and then a half term, and then it's another term, then it's another half term, whatever it is, and before you know it, another year's gone and another year's gone, and sometimes it passes us by. To be innovative, to try something different, and like you said earlier, to create an environment where it's okay to fail. That's how you're going to be innovative on certain things, and that's how we're going to be able to. I do think since the pandemic's hit, more so, a lot of people seem more afraid, if you like, to make a mistake. Like, it feels like somebody's gonna hold you to an account to account on something that was wrong, rather than actually something that was right or well done for trying. Does that make sense? I know that's how I'm seeing the world slightly differently since the pandemic's hit, and maybe that is because of deep reflection from businesses, from leaders, as you said before, that are kind of looking at that different work-life balance. Or I don't actually know what the crux of that is, but I've definitely seen a change in kind of mentality around that actually, I don't want to make a mistake, so I just won't do anything rather than taking a risk.
Just put your head down and get through it,
just rather get through it.
Sticking your head up and going, do you know what? This is all crazy. Let's just try and do something, or put your head down, bury your head in the sand and just try and, put your blinkers on and just try and get through it.
Just get through it. Yeah. I mean, what I would say, I suppose, on that to kind of balance that out, I think what the world realized when the pandemic hit, or when COVID hit, was, wow, we have to change. Like, there's no choice. We have to do something different. So what we have proved to all of ourselves, regardless of what, which level we're at, what businesses that we're running or working in, is that we can adapt and we can change relatively quickly. So let's take that mindset on and develop and change and innovate within our businesses.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, because it's so true. I think we did, people, lots of people reacted really, really quickly, maybe too quick. Some people took longer, and they needed to go through a process before they made changes, and then later wished they'd done them earlier. So everybody's experience will be different, right? But at the end of the day, everybody had to do something, didn't they? They had to change, they had to adapt, and they had to implement some sort of change. And it was, it was. We talk about record months, and the business being, the industry being incredibly buoyant, but there were lots of people that really suffered, and it didn't go well and suddenly rebound was really quick and things like that. So for other people, it was a lot tougher, and they probably had to make a lot more tougher decisions and have been through a much tougher time than maybe some businesses that did really well after. So I guess everyone's experience will have been different, but it definitely should give people, the confidence that it's okay to make changes and that it can be good.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Well, I said that we need to kind of wrap up 15 minutes ago, otherwise we'll talk after, and we've still been talking. So, look, Dawn, it's an absolute pleasure. Where can everybody find you? What can they do to find Dawn Hampton? Where can they look you up?
So I guess they can find me on LinkedIn. So I'm under Dawn Hampton, Nee Campion. Or they can just go on my website, dawnhampton.com. So that's quite easy to remember, hopefully. And if anybody wants to chat, I'm always open to a chat. And I'm more than, excited to go and help and support any business that's interested. So, yeah. No,
fantastic. Well, look, I mean, thank you so much for spending the time with us, talking about your experiences, the advice and guidance of somebody who is undeniably passionate about recruitment, 20 years, set up your own business as well, coming out of a pandemic. So, you're taking the risk as well, which I love seeing. Absolutely love that. And absolutely stay in touch. And hopefully we'll have you back on later on in the year, Dawn.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Thanks so much for having me, Lee. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. It's been fantastic. Thanks ever so much.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.